Okay, so this is one I can't resist, and this is the problem. You know, I've done a couple of two-ship games. I'm gonna skip the beat to quarters. Lydia versus Natividad, which what are they listed as? Lydia is a 36-gun frigate. Natividad sounds like, with 50 guns, sounds like it's about a fourth raider, really. But if you look at the difference in the values, the Lydia is well a much better ship. The only thing the Natividad has on it is a little bit of size, which affects fire values. And it is kind of an interesting fight to see a bigger ship taking on a frigate. But it's a much, much poorer ship. We're going to skip that, even though it is an interesting scenario, actually, and go on to the old Ironside scenario. Now, this one's clearly going to be unbalanced in favor of the U.S. You got the Constitution here, 44 guns, under Isaac Hull. And what's this facing? This is the Guerriere, under Dacres, 38 guns. Guerriere was a captured French ship that the British reflagged. One of a couple of the more famous battles that the Constitution was involved in. Another one that I'm kind of sad isn't here is the Java. I had these beautiful paintings. Speaking of, you know, hey, I like the cover because it has a painting of warship. Beautiful paintings in this old history book I had. It was a, it was between the wars it had to be published because it had World War I in it, but it didn't have World War II. Cloth cover. Meant for elementary school, really, but it just had wonderful, wonderful full-color paintings with not a lot of text. It wasn't a good history text, but it had these most beautiful paintings of the War of 1812 era that totally had me psyched for it. And not long after I had that, I got the old broadsides, the old Milton Bradley American Heritage game, and I was really, really into 1812. Probably the first war I was really into, and especially into the naval period. And strangely enough, well, since I've gotten into wargaming, naval, it still draws my desires. I'm still interested in it, but when I play them out, I'm not as intrigued by them. Tactical, strategic, well, operational generally. Naval actions usually just don't excite me. And in games like Civil War by Victory Games, I end up screwing up with the Union because I can't grasp the naval strategy. But in these tactical games, well, I think I do okay, but it's very hard for me to get too into them. I'm not seeing that line of troops massing. I've always hoped that the big fleet battles would feel better. Now, in this system, they don't. They might feel a little better, much as I kind of dislike flying colors from the one time I played it. You have a little bit more formation cohesion enforced on you there, I think. Anyway, let's go ahead with this battle. In terms of the wind, obviously the Constitution has the advantage in terms of ship quality. It's got a little bit more gunnery. It's a little bit better rate. It counts, wow. It counts as the same as the Natividad in size. So this is going to be a tough one to hit out. It's got better crew quality, etc. It just blows away the Guerriere here. But we'll find it out. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep playing with those standard rules there. Constitution is just going to go straight ahead. Again, usually not a good choice. Guerriere is going starboard. I bet it's only got 4 movement points, maybe less. And it's beam reaching, so it'll be 4. So now, the Constitution can force the Guerriere to go first. That's 2 movement points. I certainly don't want to turn yet, not with that cutting across there, do I? Oh, hard to call. It's always a hard call in this game. What do you ever want to do? I'm turning into the wind, so that's not good. I'll hold. And this is not a good game to think too hard in. If you think too hard about each of your moves, you make it really, really a painful game. So we're going to make them move again. And now they have to take their turn, and they'll go this way. Keep it as low as possible. Do I want to fire? I'm at range 2, 4, 6, 9. That means I'm going to be getting a minus 20 for range. Each full multiple of 4 hits me with 1. I do have a rake, however. That's appealing right there. So that puts me down to minus 10. Because it's just a bow rake. And its first broadside, I'd be throwing my first broadside away. But I think the Guerriere has some serious problems in this scenario. I'm going to actually fire. What did I say? I'm at a minus 10. I'm firing my starboard broadside. And I'm firing at the rigging. So I'm only a 44. 54 minus 10. And I get a nice hit. So first of all, I do a rigging hit to the Constitution. Now, doing a single rigging doesn't do much, but I also got a critical there. Getting a single hit on rigging doesn't do anything, but if I get a second one, I drop the movement rate. And if I get 4, I drop the rate down again to 3. And here's the thing, if I get a mast critical on them, and 2 rigging hits, I've caused it to be dead in the water. So I'm hoping for a mast here, because then I can continue with my rigging fire. And let's see, we need a 4 or 5 for a mast. We get a 6, which is sort of the exciting type. A 1 through 3 is a mast. 4 through 6 is a fire. We got a mast on them. So that's a good shot by the Guerriere there. I've managed to do what I would have hoped to do, which is I haven't immobilized the sucker, but with 1 mast hit against it, his maximum movement allowance is 4 now, and he's also got that risk, another rigging hit, and he's dead in the water, and that'll probably be about it. Okay, so for the Constitution, well, I'm just going ahead, 3-6, but I'm unloading here. And by the way, the Constitution was armed with some carronades, I think, for this battle, actually, but they're not marked on there. It's not a carronade-armed ship. It just had like 8 carronades in the bow to give it a little more punch. Probably factored into its firepower. So here I'm at 5 movement points away. This is going to be my port first broadside. And, well, I certainly don't want to go for rigging. I want to pound this poor sucker. I've got a rake as well. So, 5 away range, that's minus 10. Damage, I haven't taken any hull hits. This is a rake that evens me out, and it's a first broadside, so I'm at plus 10. My total value is 66. Let's hope we get as lucky as they did. And we do not, but we do, that was a 4. We do a hull hit on them. We're going to need a total of 5 of those to take it down. They'll need 6 on us to take us down. But bad things will happen if we're dead in the water. And that puts us over to turn 2. Okay, so we've made our choices here, and our picks are a little weird. We're taking a port for the Constitution, trying to swing around. That's perfectly reasonable. He's going to be broad reaching there. So he would be a 6, but he's taken those the mast hits, so he's down to a 4. Meanwhile, this poor sucker's beating. So he's at a 3, which means the Constitution's going to have the wind gauge here. Now, I chose a wear. A wear means I'm going to be swinging around and moving down with the wind. I'm basically counting on the Constitution trying to pull ahead. I don't think it's going to work terribly well. I think I should have tacked there instead. I may end up doing something to avoid moving, like backing sail, which you can't do twice in consecutive movement phases, or heaving to. Heaving 2 gives me less capability to spin than I want. Backing sail gives me none. Well, it's up to the Constitution with its 4 movement to force me. And this is where things get tricky. So what if I wear at this point? What happens? Among other things, there is, I believe, a firing penalty. No, only for attack. That's one reason you don't want to attack. So my wear would throw me... it would spin me around, and I go a square leeward. I gotta think real careful here. Basically, I could spin around in place to any one of these 3 facings. And the danger here is I've got to... Alright, well, we'll try it. We're not going to get a shot off, though. That's the danger. Alright. And that leaves it to the Constitution, who has a 4. And we're going to slip up behind them like this, but we're also not taking a shot. And that moves us to turn 3. In time to see what the next... Constitution is broad-reaching again, but their limitations put them to a 4 movement allowance. And Guerriere is doing a starboard turn. Now they're running, so they also are a 4 movement allowance, which means odd even again. Wind gauge goes to the Americans. Well, we want to force the Brits to move. So they take a 2 movement. And they're going to turn more fully. That gives them another chance to take a shot. Basically, if I kept my facing this way, I would not get a shot. Now it's on the Americans again. Now, with a port move, I'm only going to get to move 1, so I'm going to force the Brits to move again. They've already satisfied their starboard turn. They could keep going, though, and they will. No, that's going to put them beating. So they'll stay like this, and now they get to fire. And this is the starboard. They've already fired that, so they get no bonus. They're doing rigging fire. 2, 4, 7 away. That gives them a -10 for distance. I don't think there's a penalty for rigging fire at that range. Looks like a rake, so that's going to even me up. So I got that full 54 gun, or 54 point. And this is going for the rigging again. 21, not quite 40 above, but that's enough to hit another rigging. And that's a problem for the Constitution, because we have just taken down the second rigging with the mast. Which makes it dead in the water. It loses its marker. Now, what does that mean? It cannot command. It does not get to move. And essentially, it can be shot up at this point. The way this game works, the only time you can fire is when you move. So once you become dead in the water, you're not able... Let's see, there's an exception here, 11.1. You're not able to... you're able to fire if you're fouled. But that's essentially it. We'll play this out and watch as the Guerriere moves in for the kill. This is going to be kind of depressing, but the Constitution does not get any more chances to shoot, even as the Guerriere passes by, unless it happens to foul it, which I think is pretty unlikely. To me, that is one of the flaws of this system. The Constitution would still be a danger out those sides, and you wouldn't want to get into that range. Now, it would still be possible for the Brits to avoid any major broadside with a dead-in-the-water ship. But it's possible the wind could start turning it, and they'd have to be more careful. And, you know, there's just some chance of this. Anyway, this is pretty pointless, but I'll play it out. Let's see. We had the fire there. The Brits get to pick another ship for turn 4. And I don't have to do this secretly or think too hard here. We're beam reaching, so that's 4 movement. Well, I want to get close. So I'm going to take a starboard move, and that's 2. I'll shift, and now I fire. Now there's no reason for me to shoot at rigging anymore. I'm 6 away. That's -10, and that sounds like about all I have. And I'm going for the hull here. And we're just going to start knocking it apart. -10, I miss. 45 versus 44. So now we go to turn 5. And you can see this is kind of pointless, but now I can't cut right through the wind here, but I can take an ahead move. I'm beating. I'll be able to move 1 more space, and this is 3, 5 away again at -10. Nope. Go to turn 6. I can tack. There aren't really a lot of options here. I'll take another ahead move and again be at -10. And this is, the Constitution would be shooting back in this kind of condition. But it's taken a hit. And we move to turn 7. The Guerriere is going to declare attack, which will allow me to go back like this. Now I can fire on attack, but why bother? Why take that -10 now? Let's line up a better shot. So we go to turn 8. And turn 8 is a strategic cycle phase. So we have the swell phase. That's the only thing we have to worry about. Nobody's on fire here. And let's see. A 1 or a 2 does nothing. A 3 through 6 is going to move it leeward. Okay, so the Constitution stays where it is. I'm going to take a port move. We'll chunk this down to turn 0 just to make things easier on me. I'll take a port move, and I am... looks like I'm actually broad reaching there with 6 movement points. So 3, turn 4, 5. You know, it would be nice to open things up with a rake, but what the heck. This is going to be my first port broadside. That's going to give me at range 4 just -10 or +10 to my firepower. And that should cancel out the range effect. Alright, so we're even here with a 54. And we get another hit on the Constitution. And I think you can see dead in the water in these 2-ship games pretty much ends things. There's nothing I can do with the Constitution. The wind can blow me around. In a multi-ship game, it could cause some issues. It could end up fouling ships. If I got too close with the Guerriere, I could end up fouling up. But, Yeah, otherwise, the way fire combat works in this game, it just ends up, your ship is done once it's dead in the water, as far as I can see. The ship is not drifted, can fire once per turn. As in turning, it's fired only immediately after it enters a new square in movement. Yep. And there's no return fire. I thought maybe there would be something like that. So, you know, there is sort of, much as I like this game, it does have a big flaw, I think, with this. Does it matter too much? No, you know, dead in the water, it probably would be striking at this point. Although, I know that Java got hammered the crap out of it, and it traded shots even after it was dead in the water, which is kind of this situation. The Constitution would still be firing. It would be at a penalty, there's no question. When you're dead in the water, you don't have the ability to kind of shift your movement and get your guns into full position. So the gunfire should be reduced, but it should still be present. Some of those guns would still be able to track the Guerriere in that case. Anyway, I'm going to call it here. There's no point in fighting the rest of this out. I've been lucky enough to basically wreck my favorite ship ever, and it doesn't feel terribly good. I don't think it's been beaten before in any of the scenarios I've ever played. All right, so on to the next one. We'll get to resurrect it briefly. All right.